Hey, this is Chris Williamson doing his Lakehouse certification. So hi, my name is Chris Williamson. If you don't mind, I'll use this whiteboard here to talk a little about who Databricks is, but more importantly, this paradigm or shift we're seeing in the market called Lakehouse. So who's Databricks? We are a data, I like to say big data, but data and AI company. And we focus on making a very complex problem in the enterprise today super, super easy. We'll talk about how we do that. And why I've been in this market, we've been doing this for 7 years. We have over 7,000 customers. But literally, I think Gartner put out a report that the AI and data market is growing exponentially, and it's a $4 trillion market, which is a good thing. And again, we have 7,000 customers. And at the same time, I think 83% they say of the CEOs also want to do it, which is another great number. CEOs. But then also, unfortunately, 85% of AI initiatives fail. And the main reason this happens is you're dealing with a super complicated problem. At the same time, there are basically two different architecture stacks. On one side, you have data warehouses, and then on the other side, you have, I guess, what I'll call data lakes, okay? Our mantra at Databricks is a few things. Number one, how do we make this super complicated problem within enterprises easy, or what we like to call simple? At the same time, how do we leverage open source, so make it open? And there's some attributes to that. Open meaning cloud agnostic. There are obviously cloud providers out there. We want this to be flexible and open, but also at the same time, leverage open source technologies that are out there. From our perspective, open source speeds the pace of innovation. And more importantly, another challenge that we want to address is how do we make this collaborative? This is how we do it, okay? So if I can start building this out a little bit, as I mentioned, there's basically two architecture stacks that different types of personas within the organization leverage. On one side, you have obviously your business analysts and BI folks. That's one persona. You have obviously your data engineers who, these folks are literally dealing with creating pipelines, ingesting data at scale, curating that data, enabling that data for the business, at the same time enabling that data for your data science folks and your machine learning folks. So let's put this person on your data science and machine learning folks. And then at the same time, there's a whole other part of the business that's really trying to figure out how do we accelerate, and that's all about real-time applications and streaming. Real time. And what you'll find is that the biggest problem here is that there are silos, okay? So we have silos right here, we have silos right here, and then we have silos between these teams. And how do we address that? So here we have the users. Okay, going down one level, you have the workloads, which again, they're use cases and workloads that number in the thousands. Okay, so as I build this out a little further here, at the bottom here, you have all types of data. You have unstructured, semi-structured, and then you have structured, And then you have streaming, which could be transactional data, data coming in real time. So these are the three pockets of data that feed your business and the various use cases as they go up here. The question is, where do we put this data? At the same time, when we talk about open, you have obviously the cloud here that everybody's migrating, because the cloud offers flexibility, scalability, and basically cheap storage. But there are gaps. Ideally, you'd want one area, a data lake, but there are limitations on a data lake. First of all, people consider it a swamp. Let me use the red marker here. Swamp, okay, doesn't work well for gold type data in terms of the BI type use cases, and this is where obviously data warehouses have been super successful. And what Databricks has brought to the market was a thing called Delta Lake. Again, another open source project that we've developed that also obviously includes Spark, Redash, which is a company we acquired. But Delta Lake is super important to help solve the problem of enabling the data warehouses and the functionality gaps that reside in the data lake that enable all of these personas and various use cases and workloads. Part of the challenges with the data warehouse is that it does things like ACID and schema enforcement, time skip, indexing, and things like that. What Databricks brings to the table via Delta is we enable ACID, schema enforcement, schema time travel, in terms of z-skipping, etc., based on our platform. That gives you best of the both world. You can put all of your data into the data lake that gives you all the abilities and limitations that you may have had within a data lake. So from a management perspective and a management and a government perspective, management and governance, Delta enables you to manage that data, makes the data much more performant, okay? And then obviously this enables the elasticity of what a data lake historically would do with all the power of a data warehouse. At the same time, what this provides is, what you'll find is on a data warehouse side, there are cloud providers that basically lock you in. So this whole notion of open, having a solution that has no vendor lock-in is super, super important. And obviously Databricks enables that, okay? At the same time, there's some functionality on this side based on our Redash solution that enables your BI and business analyst folks to visualize all of this data so that they can make it ready for the business over here on this side. And then obviously, depending on what the data is, the streaming data can be fed directly at any velocity into the real-time applications that the companies are trying to build. So at the end of the day, what we do is, with Databricks and this Lakehouse paradox, if you will, is provide the best of all the data warehousing functionality with no vendor lock-in, okay? All of the capacity and cheap storage with the data lake within your lake, your cloud storage, again, be it AWS, be it Azure, be it GCP. So you can lower the costs here, bring down the dollars by leveraging the cloud and the flexibility and elasticity, and having a platform that then literally breaks down from a collaboration perspective. When we talk about collaboration, basically we have a universal workbook that your data engineers, your data scientists can basically share code, share data, share notebooks, share workbooks. Again, bringing that barrier to increase productivity, lower costs, and we do that by the performance of Delta and enabling these users to work in a simple yet open environment and collaborative environment. The Lakehouse and Databricks. So thank you Hopefully this makes sense and you can read this, but we appreciate the opportunity, and certainly I'll pass it over to my solution architect who will do deep dive on some of the specifics around Delta. We can show you examples of Redash. Obviously you're very familiar with the processing engine, but we've recoded Spark. It's now been re-engineered in C++. And the Photon engine is, I think, 50% fat or 60%, depending on the workload, faster than open source Spark, etc. And again, obviously, if we do a POC, these are some of the things that we want to measure, while at the same time getting these personas in the system and making them more productive in their jobs. And all of this will help speed the pace and accelerate the pace of innovation within your company. Thank you.